Exatamente 7h35. Tá caindo as pedras. Vai começar a cair. Caiu uma pedra aí?
Não, bateu no meu peito, eu peguei. Peito?
Deixa eu ver. Não, deixa eu filmar ela bem mais pro claro.
Deixa eu ver as outras.
Opa! Tem que pegar elas caindo pra filmadora. Eu acho que eu vou botar ela como night shot.
Não é a chuva de 7 minutos. Exatamente.
Viu? O Urandir falou pra mim que ia cair assim quanto? Pra ele filmar.
Eu tenho a minha lanterna, vou pegar uma lanterna.
Como é que eu não achei foco dela, Chico?
Com luz ou sem
Mostra ela de lado.
Com luz ou sem luz?
Pode mostrar de lado, Carlos Magno. Aí, assim, tá ótimo. Tá ótimo, sim. Tá no night shot, valeu.
Aqui, sobe ali, ó. Sobe ali, ó. Aí!
Você viu uma que tem ali em cima?
Não vi, peraí.
A marca que ele deixou na...
Deixa eu filmar aí, pessoal.
Cara, deixa o Fabrício passar aí pra filmar.
É o seguinte.
Olha o teto, olha o teto.
A marca que ele deixou na cama é igualzinha à marca que deixou no teto. Como se tivesse se projetado da cama pro teto. E a marca é de queimado, cheira de queimado quando nós chegamos aqui. Ele já está lá em cima.
Caramba, hein?
Ninguém é reanimado. Chegou agora, mulher?
Cheguei. Ah, meu Deus. Queimou tudo. Queimou o quê, gente?
Pode olhar.
Você estava aqui?
Não, nós chegamos e arrombamos a porta. Oi?
Mas ele estava aqui?
Não, então, quando aconteceu a chuva de pedra, aí nós descemos correndo pra cá, tava tudo fechado, televisão ligada, tudo aí, nós tentamos entrar pra essa porta, tava trancada, nós arrombamos a porta ali dos fundos, e entramos aqui.
Você estava aqui?
Então, a gente...
Liga um pouquinho aí.
Sentiu?
Fabrício.
On February 9th, 2003, 5 months later, I traveled to Urandir Oliveira's home to see the bed and ceiling body patterns and to collect samples for scientists to study.
Bom, daí como já havia uma expectativa, né, e a hora já estava sendo praticamente...
Urandir Oliveira talked to me through a Portuguese to English translator about his experience. He explained what he remembered the night of September 15th, 2002.
Assim, esperando chegar à meia-noite, que eu achava que eu só iria à meia-noite, né, que era onde finalizava o horário.
He's saying that he was prepared for this, that was going to happen on this night. And actually, he was very much concerned and waiting for the agenda. And so he came to bed and waiting for this and got a book to read. And suddenly he started feeling like very warm and the atmosphere was getting strange going on. And he felt his body warm up as if he was having a very high fever.
E clarão violeta tomou conta de todo o ambiente.
And a big bright violet light just dominated the whole room. Violet. So the light that it was like a big flash, violet, that entered fulfilled the whole room. After the flash.
But was it like a camera flash that goes off?
Esse clarão é como disparo de flash de uma máquina?
Sim, como se fosse disparo de flash.
Yeah, exactly.
Mas que prolongou pouco mais, né?
But a flash that stood for a while.
Okay.
And formed this light cube.
And what happened?
E o que aconteceu?
Aí eu fui levitando, subindo,
And then he was lifted up,
e me vi passando também.
and he
através
saw himself going through the ceiling.
And he was totally conscious?
E você estava totalmente consciente.
Consciente total.
Totally consciente.
Now,
Conscious.
why is it, if his arm was extended with that book out, why would he have left his arm out going through the ceiling?
Se o braço estava segurando o livro e o livro caiu, por que o braço continuou na mesma posição?
Eu fiquei como se estivesse paralisado.
He was just like if he were paralyzed.
Até atravessar a última camada do teto, né,
Until
do
he
telhado, eu me
went
senti
through the
assim.
last level of the roof.
Quando eu cheguei após o telhado, passou o telhado, o forro, depois do telhado, aí é como se eu tivesse um movimento lá em cima e eu me virei.
After he actually left this environment and went through the roof, and he was already in the air out of here, he could move. He recovered his moves.
Did he have any change in the sensation as he went into the ceiling?
Do momento que você começou a levitar daqui da cama até o teto, no momento de você passar no teto, você teve algum outro sentimento, alguma...
Não, você sentiu alguma coisa diferente quando você passou através do teto?
Eu sentia como se todos os meus ossos estivessem estalando, né, quebrando.
He felt like if he was feeling all his bones being stretched like yawning.
Bones?
All his bones.
All his bones were being stretched. Does
Yeah.
that mean that he felt pain?
Você sentiu dor?
Não, não.
No pain.
But a stretching feeling throughout his skeletal structure.
Yes.
And as he is reaching to, could he see with his eyes the wood in the ceiling?
Quando você estava atravessando o teto, você via a madeira?
Você atravessando um campo espumoso.
As if he was going through some kind of foam.
A foam. Does that mean he could see holes as if he were seeing under a microscope the wood?
É como se você estivesse vendo através de um microscópio.
Mais ou menos isso.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would he not be physically burned if there is this much scorching on the sheets?
Por que você não se queimou a cama?
Parece que uma programação deles própria, porque a cama, o lençol e o short, que também era o mesmo tecido, não ficou queimado. Somente a cama, né, e por motivo assim, porque eu não sei ainda, né? Eles assim não explicaram, eles disseram simplesmente que era uma interação da matéria normal a esse decalque. Se tivesse um lençol em cima de mim, esse mesmo decalque teria ficado no lençol.
He's saying that he cannot explain exactly why, but what the beings told him is that this is provoked by the interaction of the matter. And if there was a blanket on top of him, it would have happened the same thing.
Then why is it that I don't know of another abduction case in 40 years, of maybe thousands, where anything like this has ever happened before?
Ela está perguntando por que em 40 anos, e dos conhecimentos que ela tem de abduções, outras abduções, ou até mesmo em 1000 anos, nunca se teve notícia de uma experiência que deixasse esse tipo de marcas e consequências.
Porque essa foi a única abdução programada. Eu sabia que seria levada.
Because this was according to what he's saying, this was the only programmed abduction that he was conscious about, and he was programmed and he knew that was going to happen.
But why would that make a difference?
E por que isso faz diferença com evidências físicas?
É porque é o seguinte, eles deixaram aqui uma prova para que aquilo que eu estivesse falando fosse analisado e tivesse uma prova científica, né, várias evidências, justamente para que se cumprisse. Se eu disse X coisa, as pessoas que me acompanham, elas devem ter certeza que realmente eu fui. Não poder, assim, até mesmo para dar credibilidade, eles não precisavam deixar essa marca.
There was no need to leave these marks actually, but they wanted to leave him with enough credits to the public and to the science community that these evidences are very clear.
At this point, I asked Urandir Oliveira if he would lay down on the left side of the bed next to the body print so I could compare. There were no foot or right-hand prints on the bed sheet or in the ceiling.
He's going to lay down exactly on the same position that he was. He was more or less like that, reading a book.
Now, his feet seem to go off the edge of the bed,
Seus pés parecem saírem do limite da cama.
Sim, isso aí.
E estavam mesmo?
Estavam mesmo.
His feet were actually on this position, out of the edge of the bed.
Okay, what was laying on the pillow then? Because his head goes beyond those scorch marks on the pillow.
O que estava no travesseiro? Porque se você não estava encostado a cabeça,
Eu estava assim.
his head was on
E eu
the
tinha
pillow.
apoio aqui. Mas eu estava assim,
He was actually
estava
with his head on the pillow.
assim.
Okay.
Like
I
that.
see. And then that means that these bottom marks aren't his feet, but they are the calves of his legs.
Então essas marcas não são dos pés, são das batatas da
Até
perna.
aqui, exatamente.
Up to where he's showing.
Right.
The speculation is that the violet beam technology did not have to separate his feet and right hand from the bed sheet. So the energy was different in those places when Urandir's body went through the ceiling without leaving feet or handprints in the wood.
Nothing seems changed
Ainda não
on
faz
those
sentido.
photographs that were taken on the 15th. In other words, you would have thought there would be something from a re-entry.
Não tem nenhuma impressão de retorno. Ainda não faz sentido.
Da mesma forma que eu vim,
In the same way he went, he
é
came
como
back.
se fosse assim, uma programação no computador.
And this is just a little heating tool, simulates a blowtorch.
Okay.
So it generates a high heat in a confined area. So I mounted the fabric on a piece of glass. We took a small square of the fabric that you left with me, and I wet it to simulate the conditions that were described.
Perspiration
And moisture from the shower. I used a small heat source, a torch, and I heated the center of the fabric. You can see it started to char in the middle, but the ring around the charred area is darker in color, similar to some of the areas on the fabric, and that's because the polyester is shrinking away from the heat.
So the halo is created by the polyester melting and
shrinking and exposing more of the cotton.
now the shape of your melted polyester, it's not quite identical to the Brazil. This is that 40 power photomicrograph that W.C. Levengood, biophysicist, did. And when you take the experiment that Phyllis Budinger did with an iron and you put it down, one of the things that struck me now that we're comparing is that the 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and 10 seconds of the iron on some of the control from this bed sheet, it seemed to be kind of flattened.
Flattens polyester. When polyester is heated under pressure, it spreads, and that makes it look flat on top. And in fact, it is flat on top when you do that. You can do that at home when you iron something if you want to.
Well, and also, biophysicist Levengood said that this side of the bed sheet and the opposite side of the bed sheet, he's examined both sides, they have the equally sort of perfect polyester. It isn't flattened. So an iron itself could not explain this pattern.
No.
You could not make...
If it was done with an iron, they'd be flat, just like those photographs. So it's some other heat source. What that is, we don't know.
Could you explain a little bit about the possible importance that water might have played, both from having taken a shower and perspiration when this individual laid down?
When cotton gets wet, moisture actually goes into the fiber. In other words, it's inside the fiber, as well as on the surface. Polyester, the water remains on the surface. So in the presence of a high temperature, the water will evaporate from the surface of the polyester before it evaporates from the cotton. because the water is bound to the cotton fiber. So in order to damage the cotton fiber, you have to evaporate the water to get the fiber hot enough to burn. But since the polyester isn't really holding water, it can absorb heat more rapidly. And that may explain why the polyester melted and the cotton in a number of these areas wasn't particularly damaged. The other point that I'd make, in the report that you have, if you flip back several pages, she talks about thermal conductivity.
Right, that polyester has a more rapid, will you explain it?
Well, if you look here, the numbers that she's given you indicate that polyester is 10 times more conductive than cotton. If that in fact is the case, then of course the polyester could absorb the heat more rapidly than the cotton.
And from your knowledge as being a testing laboratory in textiles, you would agree with the 10 times. Polyester has a heat transfer that's 10 times faster than cotton.
No.
Okay. You tell.
No,
tell
I
me,
wouldn't.
Tell me what you know.
Well, what I know is from several different texts that they generally suggest that cotton is more conductive than polyester, which is why polyester is used as an insulating material in winter clothing and other things. And you don't fill a ski jacket with cotton, you fill it with polyester, because polyester is a better insulator than cotton.
Can you talk about some of these complex variations? You found a lot of non-vitreous fibers moving in horizontal lines inside of where the polyester otherwise had gone into vitreous.
Well, once again, it depends on how much heat and how long. You said you found some fibers that had unmelted filaments on the inside, some strands.
Right.
And it's just that simple. The outside gets hotter than the inside when you raise the temperature. It's just like if you cook something in the oven. The outside cooks before the inside. So that doesn't seem terribly perplexing.
Does that suggest, though, that whatever did happen to this bed sheet happened in a very quick period of time?
I would think so. I would think so. Especially with the temperatures that are involved and the fact that the cotton wasn't degraded more than it was, it would seem that it would have had to have been a fairly quick occurrence, whatever happened here.
And the amount, we're talking in seconds, right?
I would think so.
But in terms of your reproducing, if you had the challenge of reproducing exactly this pattern that you're seeing from there, the top of the pillowcase, it's also burned underneath the pillowcase as if this might have been crunched out, which is a delicate and interesting feature of this. How would you do it if you were going to try to reproduce everything that you're seeing?
I don't know exactly what I do, but I can tell you that we probably need a lot of bedspreads till we got it right. It wouldn't happen the first time. At least not what I see happening here.
So this is extraordinary.
I think so. Yeah. It's very unusual.
What about some of these details that the biophysicists found in the microscope having to do, let's take this polyester, that 1.4 millimeter thread.
How about, I have no idea, okay, why that could have happened. I mean, you have let's see, polyester here, and here, and here, and here. All along here you have this one that's obviously missing. And why? It would, you'd almost have to have a very a pinpoint heat source like a laser to do something like that.
Okay, if you had a pinpoint that could go down to 0.4 millimeters, could a 0.4 millimeters laser make this complicated pattern?
No. I don't know exactly how this was done. The exposure of a particular area of the fabric has to occur very quickly. Now, can someone with a heat source start down here and spend 20 minutes doing this? Perhaps, but the point is, if you have a heat source that's intense enough to melt the polyester and still not cause intense damage to the cotton, or at least some of the cotton, it has to move fairly quickly along this pattern. It either happens, the whole thing all at once, or it has to be very carefully guided to get this effect without actually starting a fire of some kind.
Because really at 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which we have to be somewhere in that range, that kind of exposure to this polyester and cotton blend for more than, say, a few, like 2 or 3 minutes, you would end up with a black, charred, probably tarry.
Oh, that kind of exposure, that kind of heat on this fabric, you're talking about no more than 10 seconds in any one area, probably. Otherwise, you'd ignite it.
You'd ignite it into fire.
Yeah.
To it as a plasma, because apparently that's
Professor
a word they
Goma Omar from Egypt is a geology expert and has taught and researched at the University of Pennsylvania for 25 years. He is baffled about the origin and creation mechanism of the several football-shaped Corguinho stones that he examined.
It's very clear when you look at the cross-section here, you really can see how they are banded. Can you see the bending there in each one of these impacts? You really can see how they bended they are, and another one too. You can see the bands there, and you can see, of course, here the football outline and football-like outline in the other one. But the most important thing is that really the bending there. And this is the mystery to me. I mean, I don't see that very often, so this is something should be investigated further, no doubt about it.
You've never seen it before, though, you had said.
No, I never seen this particular football-like shapes and this particular mineral arrangement. I didn't see that before.
And to produce this shape of these sort of football-shaped or disc-shaped stones, and if I'm understanding correctly, to have all of this quartz embedded in the iron, and when you go up to a higher magnification, to the 100, could you do that? And if I understood correctly, then all of these ragged edges around the quartz are again because the iron was at about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
It was in a melt, yes.
And
yes.
So these, whatever their formation, they had to have been in some kind of a liquid form.
Yes. Definitely, it's very clear that the quartz grains were floating in this iron liquid at high temperature. That's another observation too we can make.
As we were looking at one of the slides cut from the football-shaped stone, Dr. Omar changed lenses to 400 power.
There's one.
Scattered among the quartz were unidentified fibrous crystals.
Like that's one, and this looks like that's a piece of one down there.
Yeah, well, these are the spectacular ones that are in the corner. You see the difference in colors has something to do with the thickness of the crystal. All right, so whenever you get blue or yellow, golden yellow like this, or greenish, that has something to do with the thickness, as you can see in there.
And if the quartz grains have been eaten away by the melted iron, are you looking here at
fibrous crystals that have not been eaten away by melting.
Maybe at the edges here, maybe toward the edges there a little bit, yes. But it looks like they are more resistant to the decay and the decomposition by the hot liquid than the quartz.
So whatever these are, they are able to resist a high melt temperature more than the quartz.
You could say that, yeah. How much, I don't know.
And is it true that in these football-shaped rocks that you have evidence that they have been exposed to high pressure because the center is...
I would say high temperature. High temperature, yes. But as to the bending and the stratification going from the center outward, that has something to do with spinning force. We just talking about it before. That's the most likely explanation so far. And I really don't know what will cause this spinning force to form this. So that's the stratification inside. I think it's due to the spinning force, which it would be nice to know how that happened.